Today we're tackling rust, and there's quite a bit of it. There's a lot of places we need to worry about rust on the rust magnets that are spring frames. We can worry about the generic body of the van. We can worry about the floor, as we saw when I removed the screws and the floor. There's a little bit of rust forming. Then me specifically, I need to worry about the roof, as we saw in the previous video as well, because those roof seams are a little bit messy. And then a few others like the door steps, underneath the seats, and the front windshield. The metal around it is very prone to rust, and I'm a little bit worried about that one because I don't know how to remove the glass. So let's start easy, and let's start with a little bit of a side panel of the van.
I'm in the light at the end of the tunnel. Paper stacks, yeah, I got them in the bundles. Harry Potter breaking bread with the muggles. They said I wouldn't make it, now they looking puzzled. They said I wouldn't take it, how to go and hustle. Get the bag, it ain't never getting fumbled. In the jack, but we came up from the bottom. Through the cracks, let the light pour in. Have a blast, let the drinks pour in. Take a risk like it's a short thing. Going in, yeah, I'm going all in. Getting flued out, yeah, you can bring your friend.
I'm basically at the point where I feel like I should prime at least this part of the panel because it looks like it's going to rain in a day or two, and I don't want to leave the metal exposed. But while I'm closely looking at this, I've noticed that it has some weird, like, tiny little pinholes, and I don't know if I should put body filler on it or if just putting the paint would cover it. But I think I'm gonna err on the side of caution and putting a little body filler on it. I don't know if this is well mixed, but the holes I need to fix are so small that it should work, I hope. Now it's time to tackle the rust on the floor. And the other thing we need to do is going to be to finally plug and seal all the 100 of screw holes that were holding the wooden floor down. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of work, but we got to do it. And now we have the same problem again. Should I paint first or cover the holes on the floor? And this time, I think I'll be doing it the other way around, because I'll be painting it with this Hemorrhide, which is a paint that supposedly can go straight onto rust and preventing from spreading and becoming a problem. So in case I missed some little bits when I was sanding, I'll be using this to try and prevent it from spreading. And then once that dries, I will cover the holes with body filler. So let's get to painting. It's a new day, the paint is dry, so now let's plug these holes. Now that we got the simple projects out of the way, let's move on to the roof. But before we jump on top of the van, let's start by removing this headliner here so we can look at a dent that I have here in this corner. And maybe we can push it out? Let's see. That's a pretty nice dent. Even got a little bit of the frame here. To push this out, I'm gonna try applying some heat and then some force. And let's try not to burn ourselves this time around. I think that's the best I can do with the tools I have, but it already looks a lot better than it did, so let's move on. Yeah. Now, with this corner all painted, and before we bondo this to the correct shape, we have to tackle the critical part of the roof seams. But let's sand it from the inside while I try to figure out how the hell am I gonna film this.
Alive, let's hit the dance floor. Don't work too hard, might break a backbone. Return of the Mac, the king is back though. Corvette and cash, I never lack those. She saw the stone, you know how that go. Fatality, my diamonds that cold. Versace trunks, I hit my backstroke. Knock on the door, she at the back, bro. All I really really take is a little taste. Island girl, blue eyes with a little bass. Here for the thrill, I don't need a chaser. Wanna vibe and get away. Shimmy, shimmy, y'all got the too many ongoing, too crazy, and I got bad ones and they ready. A good time, so now it's.
Now that I've sanded this as best as I can, the rest of the plan is to soak it in some rust remover / rust converter. Let it soak for like 12 hours, have it like seep into the seam and maybe like, or hopefully finish it all off. And then come in tomorrow, prime it with a rust stopper primer, whatever that's called, and then maybe put a little bead of silicone on the seam to not let any water go in. Is that a good plan? I don't know. It's the best I could come up with. So let's do it.
Heck of a night in Toronto. She said, boy, you in Morocco. Pearl white mention in the top gold. Fill up my cup with the pop, whoa. High off life in the spot, though. Running at the visa, really talking to a real life.
I don't see any signs of the yellow rust remover coming down. So at least this is not leaking as much as I thought it would be, which is great. Now let's see how it looks from above. I don't know what all these black marks are, but let's clean this and see how it looks. All right, it looks a little bit better after cleaning, but those marks are still there. But I think I know what they are. I think they are parts of the metal that were already beginning to rust from being exposed to the elements, even if just for a few minutes, that then converted into some other compound with a rust converter. And so they look a little bit darker. I'm not entirely sure if that's what it is, but I'm gonna assume it is and hope it is, and I'm gonna continue with the process. So now we're just gonna sand this one more time so it looks fresh and clean, bare metal, and then begin with a sealing part with primer and silicone and Bondo and all those cool things. Let's go. Ooh. This is gonna have to be a little bit of a run against the weather because it looks like it's gonna rain in a few hours. Let's keep going. Now we need to figure out a way to cover this so it dries without getting wet or dirty from the trees. Weirdest little tents, but they should hold up until the paint dries, and then it becomes less of an issue if water gets underneath the plastic. But now let's move on to the inside part.
I am never going to be able to remove all of that pitting, and so I think similarly to what I did on the floor, I'm going to paint it with Hammerite, and hopefully the paint will prevent the rust from becoming worse. I've been debating for the past 30 minutes if I should actually plug the rust hole on the bottom of the step, because it's right next to a drainage hole, and so in my head it just sounds like extra drainage, which should be a good thing, no? I don't know. But since it's relatively easy to access, I think I'm just gonna leave it as is, and if one of you guys has a reason that I should plug it, I can always come back to it. So let's keep moving. I don't know what the previous owner did with the van, but these steps are always looking horrible. They're always full of dirt, they're always full of stones, and worst of all, they're always full of rust. You guessed it, yay! I guess the rust is a byproduct of everything else I just said, because the dirt just clogs the drainage holes and keeps the moisture just sitting here corroding the metal away. But either way, it's annoying. So now we have a lot more work, so let's keep going.
Oh, hi, Mark.
I figured that before painting that step, the one we just sanded all the rust on, I should probably remove both of these seats. Because, let's be real, I'm probably gonna have to do the same process on the floor underneath them.
The rain is here, so let's maybe paint that step before it starts rusting while we're disassembling everything else. It's been storming in Lisbon.
Agitação.
So I had to pause the rust work and I had to cover the van. Now, some good news, or just some news because I'm not sure they're really good. All of that water, all of that rain confirmed one of my worries, which is there's a leak in the front windshield. The rust around the glass is letting some water through, and so we're definitely going to have to remove that window, which I'm still not entirely sure how to do. But now we're going to have a few days without rain, so let's go back to the rust work and finish that step and that floor in the driver area. So let's get back to work. for the past couple days, scratch that, for the past couple months, it's been raining a ton. I've been maybe getting like one sunny day and I guess not even sunny day, like one non-rainy day a week, which as you might expect, and because I'm working outside in the elements, has slowed down the conversion a lot. And because of that, I think I'm going to cut the video here. I'm going to move the last and final step, which was going to be a big mission anyway, the windshield removal, into its own separate video. And so, before you go away, I just need you to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want to keep following this conversion along, because it does really help me out. And another thing you can do is just pray for the rain to stop, because we need water, but we don't need this much water. So, thank you and bye. Toma no rabo, toma no rabo. Que foi?